This segment is brought to you by Jig Masters. Step up your game with high-quality performance jigs, spinner baits, buzz baits, and more from jigmasters.com. And always, when in doubt, get the jig out.
Welcome to the Bass, Kayak and Beers segment on the Paddle and Fin Network. It's your host Armando Sola, and on this segment we kick back with a special guest and talk about life, kayak fishing, and the pursuit of big bass. So get your cold brews on and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Bass, Kayak, and Beer segment on the Paddle and Fin podcast. Thank you for joining us today. We got a great episode for you today, but before we get started, quick thank you to Douglas Outdoors for sponsoring our show. Go to douglasoutdoors.com to check out their full lineup of LRS rods, X-Matrix, and the award-winning fly fishing rods. Some of the best rods out there. Go check them out. douglasoutdoors.com. So with me today is one of our new hosts on a new segment on the Paddle and Fin Network. And if I get his name right, it's going to be Brad Hurlebaus. Did I get that correct?
You had it real you had it close enough. I know what you were saying. Yeah. Hurlebaus. You were good. You're good.
How are you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Pretty good, man. Can't complain. Thank you for joining me, taking time out to join us today for our segment. It's an honor to have you on. Like we just mentioned, you're going to be one of our new hosts on a new segment of Paddle and Fin. We're kind of branching out. Now, we're not just about kayak fishing. We're also going to be having a segment dedicated to hunting. And your segment, if I'm not wrong, is it Feather and Fur, right?
That's correct. Feather and Fur. That's the new segment. It's going to be good. I mean, I'm a kayak fisherman. I'm also a boat fisherman, but I do a lot of kayak fishing and I do a lot of kayak hunting, kayak duck hunting. I use my kayak to get to different spots to upland hunt. So that's kind of how I met Brian, was through the kayak fishing side, and just kind of expanded on from there. And this fall, he wanted something a little different for the OG show. So we brought on the Hunt-isodes, which I was a co-host for. And that kind of rolled into me having my own segment, which is going to be bi-weekly, called Feather and Fur.
Yes, we're excited about that. I know I'm looking forward to it because there's not a lot of podcasts out there about hunting. Maybe there are. I just haven't looked at all that much, but other than Steven Ranella of the Meat Eaters podcast and the whole network he has a YouTube channel. He has I think it's on Netflix, his TV show, Meat Eater. So yeah, Meat Eaters, Steven Ranella. Other than that, I really haven't seen a lot of podcasts dedicated to hunting, so I'm excited to have you on board, man.
It's going to be good. There's quite a few really good hunting podcasts that I do follow, like Project Upland. That's a great one for upland hunting. There's a few out there. There's some big shoes out there, which I'm going to have to try to fill. I mean, I want to make my way into the segment. I want to make my way into the community. It's nothing that I thought I would be doing. I never had a plan to start a podcast. It just kind of developed from being a co-host to, you should try your own segment. So
it's going to be awesome. How did you started with hunting, first of all?
I took it up on my own. No one in my family hunted. No one did. So I was 21 at the time, renting a farmhouse in 21, 22, perfect party palace. I mean, we had 40 acres, a couple keggers every once a month. But in fall, I'd always see the back corner of this field flooded, and there'd just be ducks falling into it and geese. I'm like, that looks like a good time. So I'm like, let's learn how to hunt. So I went and got my hunter safety, and my roommate at the time was like, I don't know how to waterfowl hunt, but I can hunt. So we both got our license, and we just went and sat on a tree line and waited for some geese to fly over, and we pass shot them as they flew overhead. That's kind of what started it. I bought some really cheap decoys, some really cheap calls, and we were spoiled because they wanted to be in that field, and it gave us such a biased hunt because they wanted to be there. And they always say hunt the X. You always want to hunt where the birds are, but when you're hunting completely unpressured birds on private land that you are the only one that has access for, they just come in without trying. So we got spoiled quickly. And it wasn't until about a year later we started to actually hunt public land, where our eyes were just like saucers. Like, oh, this is what we're like. We don't know what we're doing anymore.
Yeah, that's gotta be exciting, because I can see the difference between hunting in private land and hunting in public land. Being from Texas, there's not a lot of public land to hunt around here. I think I saw or heard the numbers. I think it's like 99% of the land in Texas is privately owned. I think 1% is actually public land, and a lot of it you can't even hunt. So I can see how it can be so much more challenging. Now, I don't have the experience of hunting. I would love to get into hunting. I was thinking about getting into hunting this season, but I really want to focus a little bit more on kayak fishing. There's a couple of techniques and a couple of things that I still feel like I want to figure out before I, fill my daily schedule or my distractions with other things other than kayak fishing. So, but it's definitely in the agenda for next year. And you and I talked that maybe I'll go up to there, Wisconsin. You can come down here to Texas, but definitely hunting is something that I'm like really interested in doing. And it's cool that you started off just by yourself, because I mean, like fishing, not just guys, but nowadays girls too, they're so involved in fishing and kayak fishing and hunting. But it's usually that, generation, hand-me-downs, where your dad or your grandpa or a close uncle will take you hunting or fishing and you learn from them. But the fact that you just picked it up, by yourself, is pretty cool, man. How did your father ever join you in hunting at any point? Was he around? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
My father had already passed before I took up hunting.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, there's some things where I wish like my family did hunt. Like when I look at, like, I'm an upland hunter by heart. I love to chase birds, especially grouse and woodcock, those true like majestic, like woodland birds. And with that come a lot of like traditions from that sport. And one of them is fine shotguns. Like you see a lot of people carrying classic shotguns. I like, part of me wishes I would have had a hand-me-down shotgun, like something that's got just a ton of meaning behind it, where it's like it was my grandfather's and then it was my father's and now it's mine. Like I miss that I don't have that. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I went and bought a beautiful 1984 Satori, which is just gorgeous and it's got all this tradition piled up into it myself. But those are like, and then some of like the long traditions. I am thankful I did get some mentors along the way. So one of my best friends, we wound up doing a duck camp, which really was the start of our grouse camp, which was the 10th year this year. 11th year this year. But his father taught me a lot, and so did my buddy too. But like his father wound up being a mentor as well, especially when it came to a little bit of grouse hunting, but with deer hunting, like, and actually going up to their hunting camp with them for a few years and like seeing their traditions. That really helped kind of fill that void.
Like right now, when you look at yourself as a hunter, do you feel like there's a lot of more room that you need to not necessarily improve, but like grow as a hunter, or there's something out there that's driving you to learn or chase that you haven't done yet?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like fishing in that regard. I mean, you're trying new techniques. And then once you master those techniques, there's going to be different techniques you want to master, right? It's not really techniques in hunting, but let's just pick on grouse hunting. I want to learn more about their habitat. I want to learn about the different food they eat at different times of year. I want to learn at the different cover they choose for different times of year, so I can put that together to have a more effective hunt. I mean, there's just so much to learn, like just on the habitat side for those birds. And the same with like deer hunting, with like patterning deer and like how they move. There are different bedding areas to where they're feeding, to what they're feeding on, and how to effectively target them on public land. That's another big thing too. I mean, I'm not a huge deer hunter by heart. I'd much rather watch my dog work in the woods or work in the field. But when I do go out deer hunting, I like everyone, I want to be successful. And with that comes, you kind of have to put the knowledge behind it. So I'm always striving to learn more. Absolutely. I don't know if I'll ever be to the point where I'm like, you know what, there's nothing more I can learn, because I feel like every time I go out, I learn something.
Who's been your biggest influence outside of your close nucleus? Your friends and your friends of your fathers. Anybody out there? I don't know. Like, we were just talking about that. Like Steven Ranella from Meat Eaters. Or anybody out there? Any influencer or any big name hunter that's influenced how you approach hunting?
Not specifically. I mean, there was a couple back in the day, like when I first got into duck and goose, like waterfowl hunting, ducks and geese. I watched a lot of the different movies out there. So I watched, I can't remember his name, Sean Stalls. He had a bunch of movies out there for goose hunting, and I would watch him not only for the entertainment, but I really pick apart to try to figure out how he was calling. And then I would sit there and watch these movies with the call in my hand and try to mimic the calls he's making. Well, that didn't teach me when to use what call. It really taught me like what calls he uses in the field. Same with the Zinc guys. I'd watch a ton of their duck hunting videos. And the same thing, I'd be sitting there watching movies, driving my wife insane as I'm sitting there calling along with them, trying to like really work on like, wait, how'd they hit that note? Like, how did they do that? So I'd pause it, I'd rewind it, and I'd listen. I'd pause, I'd rewind, and I'd listen. And I'd sit there and I'd try to make it happen. So that was a big influence, just watching and really picking them apart. Like, how do they set their decoys? Like, what type of like spread did they set their decoys in? Where were their layout binds in their field compared to those decoys? Like, a lot of people might watch those for just the entertainment value, and they're great. They were very well produced movies, and I'm sure they still are making them. But I watched it for the educational side, where it's like, how did they set up? How are they calling? Like, what am I missing so I can get better at this without paying them to teach me? I bought their movie. That's their guide fee. I bought their movie.
That's pretty good, right? And nowadays with YouTube and everything, it's like you can learn so much now. And I'm sure, like, I know like fishing and kayak fishing, it's this deep rabbit hole, man, where you don't just have to fish for bass. There's a countless amount of species you can target. And even if you stick to bass fishing, which is usually what I talk about on this segment, there's hundreds of techniques and different ways to target bass fishing. So I would imagine hunting, when you took look about it in like the landscape of it, just every type of bird that you go hunting for, roaming animals, deer, it's endless, like literally thousands of species and thousands of techniques for each one of them. Like, it's got to be a deep rabbit hole just to go out there in nature's groceries and just immerse yourself over it. I don't think anybody would ever stop learning from, hunting.
I mean, it's incredible. And then you can challenge yourself more. I mean, you can look at archery hunting, and then you can get even more challenging with traditional archery hunting. And I mean, there's a little teaser. My first episode is with a very prominent traditional archery company, and we're going to be talking archery at close range, like a bear shot at 12 yards with a recurve bow on the ground.
Oh my God. That would be nerve-wracking.
That's what I said. I'm like, I mean, at that point, I'm like, aren't you scared? And his response was perfect. He's like, no, I'm the predator. Me being prey never crossed my mind in that moment. I knew I was the predator. I knew I was going to shoot that bear. Never once got scared. That was the perfect response.
Yeah, it is. It has to be. That has to be your mentality. I saw a video of on YouTube about archer who got attacked by, I think it was a grizzly bear. He made it out, obviously. I don't think they would have put that video on YouTube if it would have ended in carnage. But he had that moment where he kind of froze, I guess. I don't want to dissect the video because I'm not a hunter, much less an archer, archery hunting bears or grizzly bears. So who am I to dissect and criticize or play armchair quarterback on a hunting video? But it definitely seemed, from my perspective, that there was that point of hesitation. It's like your friend said, on next episode, is you got to have that mentality, I guess.
Especially when you're close range like that. I've never been 12 yards from a bear, let alone on having one small bush between us. I mean, in a tree stand, they can climb. Don't get me wrong. Bears can climb fast too, but at least you got some distance they have to cover there. Even if they're 12 yards away, by the time they get to the tree and they're scaling the tree, I'm like, you got a little time to react. But to be on the ground 12 yards away from this bear that was feasting on blueberries, just crazy. Like I wish there was video to watch of that. I mean, that's talking about that's like, all right, I think I got to go to Alaska now.
Yeah, that's got it. And I actually was working on the artwork for that episode, and that is not a small bear by any means. Dude. I mean, I'm not an expert at hunting, like I said, but that I was looking at that picture. I'm like, oh my God, that is a huge bear that he just got on the arch.
It's got some big paws. And once that's released and that people are able to go take a pick at that, take a look at the bear's nose. He brought this up too. You can see it's blue from all the berries it was eating.
Definitely. Alaska. That's the last episode I actually saw on Steven Relentless Meat Eaters, him hunting black bears in Alaska. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Cool, I haven't seen that episode. I'm pretty far behind on the meat eater stuff. I've been trying to stay off TV. I've been trying to just focus on me and the dog and just try to watch less TV type of stuff. So
especially YouTube, man. Like I grab my phone to do actually productive stuff, and then I go to YouTube, open that rabbit hole, and 30 minutes later, I'm still watching videos and I haven't got nothing done. So you got to set a timer on it, man, because it can be very addicting.
Pretty much. I do catch myself occasionally, though, on the Instagram reels on the hunting side, watching the best 10 seconds of everybody's clips. I'm like, oh, man, I could do this for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us, Brad, a little bit about your segment. Starting with the first episode, you touch on it a little bit, but what can people expect for your next episode, which airs this Friday, right? I think it's going to be the 22nd or the 21st.
That's correct. I don't know the official date. I probably should know that. It's my segment and everything, but it's Friday the 22nd at noon it releases that.
And what's going to be the first episode? Who's going to be your guest and what are you going to be talking about? I know you mentioned it, but a little bit more into details.
The first episode is with Jonathan Karch of Three Rivers Archery, and we're talking traditional archery. Three Rivers Archery is the world's leader in traditional archery supplies, from long bows to recurve bows to bow fishing to primitive bow archery to modern traditional archery using some modern components with different types of metals and wood rather than just being only wood. You search traditional archery, you'll run into Three Rivers, and I've known him since, I don't know, 2008, 2007. So it was real fun to get a chance to talk to him again and see how he's grown with that company. He's now the president. That he just took over as president of the company. And it's pretty cool. I mean, we're talking traditional archery, so up close, personal, deer, bear, Alaska, hogs in Texas, hogs in Florida. We didn't get a chance to touch on bow fishing, so I'll probably have to bring them back. But my next bow fishing setup for my kayak will absolutely be a traditional archery setup.
And moving on from that, what can people expect, not just for this episode we just covered, but also beyond?
Pretty much, I want the field to not be interviews. I want the field to be like you're at hunting camp sitting around the fire and we're telling stories. There'll probably be some product review stuff. I mean, we're going to talk different products, obviously, especially have different people on with what they prefer to use for products. And there's the pro staff side of everything, obviously. I mean, but I want it to be a really comfortable feel. I don't want it to feel like an interview. I just want it to feel like two people sitting around the fire and you're there with us and we're having some beers or some whiskey or some bourbon. I mean, if it's fall in the Northwoods, it's bourbon. It's just how it goes at grouse camp.
As well it should, right?
But I mean, the next episode I've got lined up an excellent female archery hunter from Wisconsin, and we're going to talk about her buck hunting this year, and she got an amazing buck, and she's an established fisherwoman as well. So we'll talk about her in the outdoors and some of the struggles that she's seen being a woman in the outdoors and some other struggles along those lines. And turkey hunting is going to be coming up. So I'm not 100% confirmed, but I'm pretty sure I got a couple guides for Wisconsin lined up that are going to come on and talk turkey hunting and different techniques with us. I've already reached out to a couple of different dog trainers I know to talk about different dog training techniques. So as we get into summer, when people with duck dogs and upland dogs are really starting to think about getting into dog training, or the ones thinking about just getting a dog, some of the pitfalls that I've found, and then some, especially with some of the trainers that have far more experience than me, the common pitfalls they see and like different experiences they had. So kind of transition in summertime to probably more dog training, more working your dogs like for exercise wise. Probably throw a little bow fishing in there as well. Just not really hunting, but you're using a bow and it's summertime. That's what we do.
It's a different way to approach fishing. To me, it's hunting.
Right. I mean, at that point, I'm hunting carp with an arrow and a stick. So
that's pretty cool. That the dog episode has got you really intrigued. I think that's going to be pretty cool, pretty eye-opening, because I've always admired that, just the training and having that companion, because to me, I'm a dog lover like most people out there, and just to have, be able to enjoy your passion with, your best buddy kind of thing. It's got to be pretty cool.
Absolutely. I mean, my girl is absolutely she's my world. There's no doubt about that. I mean, there's just no doubt in my mind that, she right there. I mean, there she is.
There you go. What's her name?
She's Pippa. That's Pippa Jean right there. And that's my 1984 Satori I was talking about. I'm kind of fond of her. I'm kind of fond of her too. But
nice.
No, that's my girl. I love her to death. She's a little crazy. She's a little cranky at times. I rescued her at 6 years old, actually. So
wow.
I've only had her for almost 3 years. I've only had her for about 3 years now. So that came with all of its own challenges and training, because she had some hunting experience, but she needed a lot of basic obedience again, and she needed to get that confidence back. And we're still working on that confidence in the woods, on her trying to figure out the grouse game, especially because grouse are just a really tricky bird for dogs. They don't like a lot of pressure, but at the same time they'll run, or if they get too much pressure, they'll fly and you're not anywhere close to them. So they're a tricky bird, and she's figuring it out. She's doing good for being 9 years old. I mean, I'm absolutely proud of her.
Did you train her yourself, or you actually hired somebody to train her?
She had a little training when I got her, but everything else was all on me. I did not use a professional trainer. I just kind of reinforced what she already knew, and I just went off the fact that she's a 6.5-year-old dog, and she's never going to be the perfect NAVDA star. It's just not North American Versatile Hunting Dog Association. What's a lot of people train to those standards. It's an amazing organization. And if you are looking at training an upland dog, I highly suggest reaching out to your local chapter, getting to know them, and if you're training your dog yourself, they are one of the best tools you can have, because it's a group of people, men and women, that train their own dogs. And with that, you get different levels of experience, from champion dogs to people that have no experience and everything in between. So as you run into a pitfall, like my dog's doing this, I don't know how to fix it, someone there probably has already seen it and they can help walk you through it. And not only that, but you get all the camaraderie of having a big group of people together. And on the retriever side, you have hunting retrieving clubs, which are the same thing, but they focus on the retrieving breeds rather than the upland pointing dogs, retrieving dog, versatile dog. Well, and I'll touch on all of that in way greater detail once I get that dog episode up and running for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, because you think of dog hunting, but maybe like the what you usually see on, like, even cartoons or TV shows or TV movies, it's just a dog fishing a dead duck. But there's a lot more, like you said, there's some for pointing, there's some for, what we just talked about, the dogs that are retrievers. So it's pretty cool how each, there's another rabbit hole right there that you can spend hours talking about.
Oh, absolutely. I'll probably break those episodes apart and talk retrievers on one and versatile dogs on the other. And I really don't want to say it that way, but you have your hunting retrieving clubs, which really focus on retrievers. I mean, they're duck dogs first, but they also hunt upland birds amazingly. My lab was a phenomenal upland dog. I trained him with an HRC, and he just never was as steady as I wanted in a duck hunting blind, but his upland passion was so great. He drove me to wanting to be an upland hunter and really ignited my passion for upland, which is what I truly love now. I love chasing those upland birds more than everything. And I owe that all to that lab being slightly impatient, but just being one of the best dogs I've ever been behind in the grouse woods. I mean, he was just phenomenal. He had a great nose, and he just could figure out those grouse and just make them fly where he wanted. He's almost like he could figure out where they were and push them in the right direction to get them to fly. He was just amazing to watch.
That's awesome, man. So other than hunting, because I know we can go down this rabbit hole, but you also are a very accomplished kayak fisherman, right?
Accomplished might be a strong word. I think my best tournament finish was like a 9 out of 18 with like a 35th on like a regional level tournament. But yeah, I mean, I do quite a bit of kayak fishing. I do quite a bit of boat tournament fishing as well. I do a weeknight boat league in the Madison area, Madison, Wisconsin. That's where I reside. And we have a weeknight lead with Madison Bass Club. So that's every Wednesday night and starting May through August. I'm running a new canoe pursuit. Couple different ways. I'm not using a bow mount trolling motor. That'll happen this spring. It's just going to happen. But I really wanted it for the pedal ability of it, because I take it with my camper. So paddle ability. I don't have the drive either. Holy cow, I can't talk tonight. I wanted a good paddling kayak that was stable enough that I could run a mud motor on. So I have a 3 horsepower mud motor that I slap on the back for duck hunting and other different type of hunting activities. So I needed something with a flat back, which also could paddle really, really well, because I didn't want to mess around taking a motor with when I'm towing my camper. And my wife want to go out, and I'll go out fishing and she'll go paddling. She's got an Old Town Sorrento. So we'll go out for a paddle. We do a lot of rec paddles. We do a lot of river trip paddling where we do river camping, or we'll just do a day point A to point B with a shuttle, and no fishing rods, no anything, just her, I, and some other friends in the kayaks on the water, just having a good time.
You see, I couldn't do that. Like I can't just be on a kayak and not have a fishing rod. I don't know if I could. Maybe I'll try it one day. But yeah, that definitely is something. I always have that excuse to get my skinny water kayak. It says, no, baby, it's for you, so we can do stuff together. But it's actually going to be my skinny water kayak,
Sure.
Something that's easy to carry around and move, and be able to get on like skinny waters. But that's pretty cool, man. It's a passion. The outdoors in itself is a passion, and you obviously are enjoying it to the max. You're doing the hunting, you're doing the kayak fishing. What else do you love about the outdoors that we haven't talked about yet, as far as the sports of it?
Too much. I have too many hobbies. I really do. I mean, even if we just let's just talk fishing for a second. I kayak fish, I boat fish, I fly fish, because I have the driftless area right by me. I have amazing trout fishing in streams.
Nice.
And then, like, to break that down, we can go even farther. I don't just fish for bass. I'll walleye fish. I'll troll Lake Michigan for salmon in the kayak if it's not too rough, because I now get seasick after a tournament. That's a whole nother side story.
Wow.
We were out with the Great Lakes, and we launched in what was a small craft advisory. And I made it about an hour and a half, and I just started throwing up over the side of my Hobie at the time, my pro angler. And by the time I got back, I was done. I was just done.
Really?
Oh yeah. I laid on the grass at the marina for like an hour, and I finally got, I'm like, all right, I'm feeling good. I paid for this tournament. I'm going back out. I didn't even make it into the harbor, and I'm like, oh. So, ever since then, that was the first time in my life I'd ever been seasick. I mean, I went sailing in Italy, and we were we got wound up in a storm with massive rollers in this sailboat, and I didn't have any issue with that. None. And that kayak just did me in. And now it doesn't take much in a kayak on Lake Michigan to get me sick now. I have to take meds to go out, and I pick calm days. Like in spring, I would definitely get out for the harbors, because I definitely want to chase more of these bad boys. I mean, like I was talking about trout on Lake Michigan.
Look at that trout.
I mean, so absolutely. That's in the harbor. That's
a steelhead?
Nope, that's a brown.
Oh, really? Wow.
That's a big harbor brown. So I really want to get in that. That's kind of where I try to start in spring. now that Wisconsin has a year-round bass season as well, I'll probably try to get out for that early water bass bite too, because I've never really done that before. Because our season used to close like March 31st through the first Saturday in May, so you weren't able to ever really fish that cold open water period. So I'll probably give that a shot as well. And then rolling into summer, it's into camping season. I mean, I do a lot of camping, a lot of camping we have a travel trailer, and we'll take both kayaks and we bring bikes with. I do a lot of mountain biking, single track mountain biking, gravel riding as well. So nice. That's summer right there. And then some dog training thrown in on weeknights, weeknight bass league, like I talked about. I'll probably do a couple kayak tournaments. I think there's 1 to 2 tournaments every month coming into Madison this year.
Wow.
On the Madison chain. So I learned the Madison chain quite a bit last year. I mean, I don't have like an abundance of confidence, but I hope I know it well enough to like at least have a decent showing in 1 or 2 of the tournaments.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty cool. I love that you guys up there in Wisconsin have so much of the like so many species you guys can target. Whereas in Texas, I feel like, yeah, we're blessed or spoiled, you can say, with huge bass, and we can fish all year long because lakes are not going to get frozen here. But it's really not that much other than bass. I mean, you can do carp, which I don't like and I'm not interested in doing. Sand bass, yeah, you can. Stripers, definitely. Hybrids, of course. But other than that, that's either catfish, which I'm not interested in catfish, or gar, which if you go for like one of those huge Texas gar, that'll be the fight of your life. And I'll be interested in doing that. But it's very limited. Like we don't have the whole walleye. We don't have the trout, the salmon. And that's one thing I envy about you guys over there. You know, I know the window for fishing may be smaller than it is down here in the South, but you got so much species you guys can target up there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have your smallmouth bass and you have largemouth bass. I mean, you don't really have much for smallmouth down there by you. Do you have any smallmouth fishing down by you?
Yeah, we do. They're not big. I think.
Sure.
I think the state record is something like 6 pounds, which, again, I'm not a huge expert on smallmouth bass, but I'm not gonna say that's even close to a national record.
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but I don't think so. I mean, I don't know if you caught of any of the tournament series out of Door County up in Wisconsin. MLF was there, and out of Sturgeon Bay, and I mean that's just a smallmouth factory. I fished that with Brian Schiller actually this past fall. Late summer, he came up and camped with us, so we went and kayak fished out there for smallies.
I think. Yeah, and again, I have to look at the state records as well, but I think it's got to be under 10 pounds. I don't think I'm going to say 8 at the most. I know nearest lake what I've seen smallmouth is Grapevine Lake, which is about 15 minutes from where I live. And I think the record was broken twice early last year. And I think it went from like 5.5 pounds to 6 pounds. Up in Whitney Lake, there is smallmouth bass, but again, I think the record is like 6 or 7 pounds, and I think it was somewhere in the mid or early 90s.
I just looked up Wisconsin. Its record holds tight from 1950 at 9 pounds 1 ounces for the smallmouth bass.
Wow, yeah, I don't think we're anywhere close here. And I was actually talking to, I think it was Ross Pinkerton. He caught a huge smallmouth bass. And he was telling me it was a hot summer day. By the time he got it reeled up to the kayak, it didn't make it. And it wasn't that he got hooked on the gills or swallowed the hook. It's just he got so exhausted that as much as he tried to revive him, didn't. So yeah, they're there. And I've caught them on small creeks, which is kind of weird. But yeah, they're nice though. They put up a fight, but we don't have those big smallmouth bass that you guys have up there for sure.
Now, I'm sure this is going to offend someone, and honestly, that's okay. So it is what it is. Smallmouth bass is phenomenal eating.
Oh my God, we gotta cut this short. I'm gonna have to edit this out.
But no, seriously, I mean, I don't intentionally keep bass. I don't. I but I've had a few that have died on me. And smallmouth, that's right up there with walleye, especially if the water's cold. If the water is cold, it's a nice, firm, good fillet. I mean, it's happened on me when I've been fishing pretty deep in the Madison Chain. I couldn't get them to go back down. Even if I fizzed them, they just were belly up. And I haven't kept many, maybe a handful. Were the ones that just wouldn't survive anyways. And all of them, thankfully, were above the size limit, so I was able to keep them and eat them. I'll be honest, they were good. I wouldn't specifically target them for food, but if the apocalypse happens, I know fast and I can eat them. And I would not go hungry.
Yeah, if it's between going hungry and feeding my family, then yeah, those greenies are going into the pan. Now, you know what it is like? I don't hate I don't hate the fact that some people eat smallmouth bass or largemouth bass here in Texas or Guadalupe bass, that one is like a real no-no just because they're rare. I think, it's pretty much a spotted bass, kind of like a strain of a spotted bass. It's called Guadalupe, and they're mostly in the Guadalupe River. But I know it's like a big no-no here. And some people do. I wouldn't post pictures of it. I have a hard time just accepting, like, I love those fish so much. Like, I love targeting them. Like, I can't see myself eating them. Like, I'm not going to say that people that do are wrong or they should burn in hell, like some people would say. But I just have a love for this fish, and I can't explain that. I just can't do it. Like, to me, once I set the hook on it, I want to be as... I don't want, this is to the point. If I have a chance to break my personal B and I know that reeling him in is going to cost his life, I'd rather not catch it than catch a personal B and die on my watch. That's how much I love it. Like, yes, I'm going for my personal B, but it would stain my memory if I catch a personal best and he doesn't make it, he or she doesn't make it, the bass doesn't make it. I can't. I don't know, man. I just love those fish so much. But again, I don't hate anybody that wants to eat them. They're there, they're there if you want to eat them. It's, as long as you're doing legally and responsible and adhering to the laws of how you can catch them and how much you can bring home every time, then I'm fine with it. I personally just can't see myself doing it, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. And I don't think people should go on social media and just blast people that post pictures.
I'm sure someone's going to blast this podcast now because I said I
know, I'm going to lose a lot of followers.
I mean, I'm sorry, man. I just ruined the show. All right, cut, take. We're doing it again. Start over. What's the name of the podcast again?
It's good to talk about, but yeah, man, it's just difference of opinions, and I think little.
Like I said, I don't target them specifically to eat them, but I have had a few that were going to die on me, and I'm like, might as well eat them rather than let other fish eat them.
Segue into that, I wanted to give out a bunch of I don't know, 10, 15 quickie questions. So my audience, hopefully your audience in the future, kind of get to know you a little bit. So you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
Okay. So first question, what is the weirdest thing you have seen in someone else's home?
Oh, boy, weirdest thing I've seen in someone else's home? Like, what kind of question is this?
I know, I'm telling you.
I have no idea. Like, weirdest thing I've ever seen in someone's home.
If you've gone to Brian Schiller's home, I'm sure you've seen.
I have not been into that dungeon.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen weird stuff over there.
Boy, you got me stumped. Like, I can't really picture anything off. Oh, take that back. We just rented an Airbnb, and there's this really weird stuffed albino squirrel giving the middle finger.
There you go. That's pretty cool.
That, like, we both looked at it, and I mean, the taxidermy on this thing was terrible. And we're like, wait a minute, is it like flipping you off? And sure enough, it had both fingers up.
An albino squirrel.
An albino squirrel. Yep.
Oh man, it had to be albino. That's funny. Let me see. What is your slogan or jingle that got stuck in your head forever?
I'm a big kid now.
Which one is that one?
I'm a big kid now.
Is that the Toys R Us?
I don't know if it's a Toys R Us or like a diapers commercial, to be honest. It might have been pull-ups. It might have been the pull-ups commercial. But I used to say that line all the time to a coworker.
All right. So since you're a hunter and a kayak fisherman and an outdoors guy, what Guinness World Record would you like to break in the future?
Oh, that's interesting. Guinness record in the future. Hunting or fishing? That's where you got to. That's what I'm trying to determine right now. Hunting or fishing? There's something that I've kind of gotten into fishing, but I've just started to tread water in that. So let's go with the largest muskie on a fly rod from a kayak.
Wow, that's a pretty good one. Yeah. You happen to know what the world record is right now?
No idea. No idea. I think Wisconsin's record is 60 something inches on the muskie.
On the muskie and fly fishing?
That's on all tackle. I don't know what the largest fly fishing record is off the top of my head, but I've chased them once with a fly rod. I have a friend that does it quite a bit out of a New Canoe Frontier 12. So I've kind of made it a goal where I got to do this a little more. I got to try to first hook into one of these things. So if I'm going to go after a Guinness record, let's do that. Let's just get the biggest muskie on a fly rod from a kayak.
That'll be cool. All right. If you can talk to one species of animal, what would it be?
My dog. There's no doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind.
Speaking of which, I got mine over here, which is not trained. It's trying to photobomb. I'll have to edit. Are you going to ruin my podcast, baby? Are you going to say hi to Brad? Bring some cuteness to the podcast. Here you go.
Oh,
for those that are watching on YouTube, I got Nova here who's trying to, probably tell me she wants to treat her something. But let me let her out real quick. And we're back. Usually she just hangs around at the bed behind me, but obviously she wants to go back to mommy. Cool. So
she's gonna go get a treat, a snack.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Absolutely.
So we left off. If you can talk to one. Oh, you said that the dog.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No question in my mind. If I could have full-on communication with my dog, so I can be like, "What's your problem?" and she can just be like, "I'm cranky tonight," and I can just be like, "Stop it," and get into an argument. Then I'm actually going to get into arguments with my dog. I already see how this is going to go. It's going to be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm going to open up here a rabbit hole, but it's like, I guess, if it's like, well, I'm going to say it, but I'm going to get into trouble here. But like, when you love your wife, but sometimes you're like, man, I love my dog. She won't talk back. Now, if you let your dog communicate your dog and she gives you opinion, maybe she's like your wife. Maybe she's going to be like, I want to talk about my feelings. And I know it's Super Bowl Sunday, but I got a lot of stuff that I want to get out. And you're going to be like, God, I wish.
I heard a joke a while back at the hunting club that's always stuck with me. And it's, if you lock your wife and your dog in the trunk of a car for an hour, which one's going to be happy to see you when you open it?
That's a good point. All right, let's see. I'm sure it has happened, but so either hunting or fishing, what's been how the heck did this happen moment?
Oh, that was duck hunting in Horicon Marsh. We went that Horicon Marsh. For those who don't know, if I remember correctly, it's the largest freshwater marsh in North America. It's a big marsh. We went out there Black Friday and it was cold. And when I mean it was cold, it was like -7 or 8 when we left at the launch in the morning. I was running a 15-foot mud boat at the time with a modded out 25 horse Mud Buddy longtail with like 30 horsepower head, the 30 horsepower double barrel carb, custom exhaust. It almost sounded like a Harley. So it had big chrome pipes on it. And I fired it up and it was so cold. It was like just shooting flames out of the exhaust. It was like pop, 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 pop. So anyways, we cruise down the Rock River and get to the first bay. Can't remember the name of the bay anymore, but instantly hit a sheet of ice. Ice. I'm like, well, this isn't good. So we motored through the ice and broke ice for, I don't know, half a mile, 3/4 of a mile. And finally, we're like, it's all locked up. Like the whole marsh locked up overnight. So I did a bunch of circles, spun the ice out of the way. We set our decoys. We hunkered down. We saw one other boat go past us. And we sat there for, I don't know, 2 hours until we were just like We saw one flock of birds and that was it. We're like, all right, it's time to go. So we start packing up and all the decoys froze in the water. So one of the guys I was with, there was 3 of us. He's beating him out with one of my oars because I kept oars with just in case, because I don't know who would paddle that boat back, but I had oars just in case.
Yeah, you never know.
So he's beating the decoys out of the ice, just beating them. And we finally get everything loaded up. And I start to motor back to the ramp and I can't get the boat on plane. Like the motor's just, whoa, and the boat's going nowhere. I'm like, what is going on? And that little set of panic starts to come in. I'm like, it's cold. Cell phones don't work out here. And we ain't going to last real long if we don't get back. Like there was that little bit of panic where I'm like, we got to get back. And finally I hit a curve in the river, which was just enough to skip the boat up on the plane. And we were fine. We got all the way back, got back to the launch. We put the boat on the trailer and I pull it out and I just hear the axle just go, like, what is going on? There was almost half an inch of ice all the way around my boat. The boat was freezing into the water.
Oh my God.
And from sitting there with the boat rocking and splashing, there was this huge, wide, I don't know, maybe 2 inches wide, almost like half-inch thick just sheet of ice all the way around the boat. The boat just weighed so much I couldn't get it on plane.
Oh my God.
So that was kind of like, how the heck did we get here moment? Like, what just happened? Like, what did we just do? Like, what were we thinking? Like, I had no safety. Like, I mean, sure, we had safety equipment in the way of life jackets, but I have way more safety equipment on my kayak now. I mean, I use a marine handheld radio. I have flares. I have all the stuff to fish Lake Michigan legally. I didn't have any of that for that marsh. I'm like, whatever. We're going to go out there. We're going to shoot some ducks and we're going to have fun. Never once thinking the fact like it's 0 degrees outside. I mean, we're going to be cuddling each other for heat if I can't get this motor started.
That's crazy, man. That is definitely a what the heck is going on here moment. Man. All right. So final question. Either for hunting or fishing. If you can have somebody join you for either hunting or fishing, not somebody that's readily available, like somebody out there, whether it's somebody that's not here with us anymore or somebody that's, famous, who would you go hunting or fishing with?
I'd go hunting with my dad.
Yeah, that's what I figured you say.
I mean, absolutely, because he never got to go hunting with me. Now, I don't know if he would actually hunt though, like because he wasn't a hunter. So I don't even know if he would go. He might go just to experience it through me and see my passion for it, to like watch the dog, work the woods and things like that, just to see my passion. But I don't know if that's ever something he would have picked up. I feel like if he would have wanted to pick it up, he would have done it. So let's roll it back another generation. And I only met my grandfather on my mom's side a couple of times before he passed. I was really young. I have just a few faint memories of him, but I was told he was quite the rabbit hunter back in the day and he had beagles. And I wouldn't mind going. And I've never done the rabbit with the beagles. I've never met anybody that ran beagles. So that's something I would actually really like to try once. So yeah, I guess that might be it, with the fact that, yes, I'd love to go with my dad, but the fact that he might not hunt, I would really love to go join my grandfather behind his beagles to go hunt rabbits.
Be like the aristocrats up in there in New England. That's pretty cool, man. Well, Brad, thank you so much for joining us. I know we talked almost an hour, so I'm going to wrap it up. But before I let you go, if you want to take a chance to thank anybody that you want to thank, whether it's family or sponsors, companies, anybody out there you want to thank to making your life and your kayak and hunting experience better, go ahead.
Well, I got to thank my wife for putting up with my craziness. I mean, come fall, I mean, by the end of fall, she's ready to have some me time again, because I pretty much spend all of it fishing, hunting. I mean, because I only get 60 days a year to chase birds. That's it. That's all the duck season is in Wisconsin, 60 days. And grouse season seems to go by even quicker than that. So every extra vacation day, every moment. So I really have to thank my wife. I got to thank Brian and everyone at Paddle and Fin for giving me the opportunity to have this podcast and try out my own segment. I'm really excited to see where this goes. I've met a lot of good people in the industry through different kayak shows, so I'm curious to see what happens on the hunting side. if I get the same type of respect and love right off the bat, or if it's like, just another podcast guy. So I'm curious to know where that's going to go. Other than that, I think that's about it. Small Craft Outfitters. Tyler Thide, great guy up in Wisconsin. I mean, he's been great for me too. I mean, he put me on his fishing team back when no one even knew my name. So Small Craft Outfitters for sure. And might as well thank New Canoe. I mean, that's the most versatile kayak I've been in. They definitely deserve a shout out because that's the first kayak I've ever had that can keep up with me. And that's from fishing to hunting. I can strip her down, throw that mud motor on there and attack marshes. I mean, for duck hunting, I mean, I got to thank New Canoe as well for just making such a versatile boat.
Yeah, definitely. New Canoe has really found a niche in the industry, both for hunting and kayak fishing. Great stuff. So for those out there listening, thank you again for tuning in. If you made it this far, just remember, take your necessary precautions to be safe and sound in the water. Make sure you make it back home to your loved ones. Have a great day. Have a great week. Tight lines. Peace.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and_fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in Northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jig Masters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com.